This is example 1 for the Lofts and Polygons lesson. To begin our training on Lofts, we're again going to start with a new blank inch part file, and we can begin sketching on the top plane. Now Lofts, much like sweeps, require 2 sketches, except in the case of Lofts, we're going to use 2 profile sketches. That being said, Lofts could have more than just 2 profiles. However, in this case, we're just going to use 2 profiles. So let's go ahead and start sketching our first profile on the top plane. For this profile, we're going to use a rectangle, and we're going to use a center rectangle. I'll go ahead and sketch my center rectangle starting at the origin, and then dimension my rectangle to be 4 inches in width and 3 inches in height. With that sketch complete, we can go ahead and save and exit the sketch. Then I'm going to rotate into an isometric view, select my top plane, select Features, select Reference Geometry, and select Plane. And this is going to allow me to create another plane parallel to my first plane. I'd like to create an offset plane of 4 inches. So now I've created a second plane 4 inches away to my first plane. Let's note that if we wanted to create multiple planes at 4 inches, we could create multiple planes at that 4-inch distance. However, we just want the one plane 4 inches away, so with that selected, we can go ahead and select OK. Now, on our first plane, we can begin sketching our second profile. I'll select Sketch, and then I'll select Normal 2. With the sketch started and is looking normal 2 to the first plane, we're going to begin using a new tool. This sketch tool is going to be the ellipse tool. An ellipse is the shape that's created by slicing angularly through a cylinder. Looks much like a squished circle. And what we do to create an ellipse is drag the width and then come up and click at the height and squish the height down. So there's 2 steps to creating that ellipse. And we'll also have to note that the orientation of the ellipse doesn't get fully defined when we sketch that ellipse. So we will need to add a relationship between the origin and one of the points to create either a horizontal or that would have been a vertical with one of the upper or lower points. Now that that's completed, we can go ahead and use a smart dimension to dimension the size of our ellipse. I'm going to dimension the width to 3 inches and the height of my ellipse to 2 inches. We now have a black, fully defined sketch, so I can go ahead and save and exit my sketch. Let's look at that sketch in isometric view. We now have 2 sketched profiles that we can create a lofted shape in between. To create my loft, I'll select Features, and then I'll select the lofted boss. We now have the option to select my profiles, so I'll select one profile, and then the next profile. We can see we've now created a lofted shape in between our 2 profiles. Now there can be more to a loft than simply joining 2 profiles with geometry that merges them together. We can also look at the start end constraints. Let's add a start constraint that's normal to the profile for the distance of 1 inch. We can see now that the loft is forced to maintain that profile shape for 1 inch before starting to merge in to the next profile shape. Let's go ahead and apply that same condition to the other profile. Now I have a shape that's much smoother in its transition. It's not jaggedly going directly from one profile to the next. there's a bit of a transition period in both cases. So with those options selected, I'm going to go ahead and select OK. And with that, we've concluded our first loft. We've also looked at the sketched ellipse and how to create an offset plane. I hope these new skills are a help. Thank you.